Alright, Unit 6, Day 4, where we're going to be working with triangles and the mid-segment theorem. Now you're going to see these directions ready to coordinate proof. You don't need to freak out. It's not like those two column proofs from before. What we're doing is we're going to be using slope, distance, and midpoint formula to argue or prove things about triangles. So we're going to be given this triangle OBC. F is the midpoint of OC. So F is the midpoint of this whole segment. Well, if F is the midpoint of this whole segment, and we go from, remember this is, let me write this, right here we have 0, 0. If you calculate the midpoint between these two, the coordinates of F will be P, 0. So we'll leave that in for now. It's halfway in between. If this whole distance is 2p, that means half that distance will just be p. And E is the midpoint of BC. So here's E, and there's, let me use a different color. Here is BC. Well, we're actually going to have to use the midpoint formula for this one because it's not a horizontal or vertical line. Horizontal and vertical lines are much easier to work with when you're trying to find the distance or the midpoint. So first, we're going to prove that FE is parallel to OB. So FE parallel to OB. Well, for these two lines to be parallel, they need to have the same slope. Well, first, let's find the coordinates of F and E. We already know F is P, 0. And now we're going to find the midpoint between these 2 points. Like, we're going to calculate it. So x1, y1, x2, y2. So we're going to do 2p plus 2q over 2 comma 0 plus 2r over 2. That will be the midpoint of BC right here. So when we do that, we can't simplify this. They're all, this P and Q, we can't combine those, but everything is divisible by 2. So we can say, all right, the coordinate of that point will be P plus Q, comma, well, 0 plus anything will stay the same. We have 0 plus 2r divided by 2, which will simplify to just r. So the coordinate point for E right here is P plus Q, comma, r. So now what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the slope of BO right here and EF using the slope formula. So the slope, and what I like to do, I'm going to write this a little bit bigger, the slope of OB, just so I know what's going on here, and I'm going to do my y values, and luckily one of the points is 0, 0, so it's going to make it real easy. So 2r minus 0 over 2q minus 0, that will equal 2r over 2q, which will just equal r over q. So the slope of OB, or BO, is r over q. We're going to do the same thing for FE. So the slope of FE is equal to, okay, so we're going to do r minus 0 over P plus Q minus P. And that's going to equal R over, well, P minus P is 0 over Q. So these two lines have the same slope. That means they are parallel. You need to say that, though, down here. Since these slopes are the same, OB is parallel to FE. So again, to recap, what we did was first we found the coordinates of E and F because we needed to calculate the slope. Then we found the slope between B and O, this point, this point, and this point, and then from E to F, this point to that point. And since they were both the same, that means the lines are parallel. Now, that kind of proves the midsegment theorem for triangles. It says a segment connecting the midpoints of two sides of a triangle is parallel to the third side and is 1/2 as long as that side. Meaning, if D is the midpoint of AB and E is the midpoint of BC, that means line DE is parallel to AC, and that line DE is half the length of AC. What it also means is that BD and DA are congruent, and BE and EC are congruent. So that lets us do a lot of things. We're going to apply that theorem down here. This says DE is the midsegment triangle ABC. Find the value of x. All right, so this part's 11, the smaller segment, and this part is x. Well, our theorem says that this side that's 11 is half the size of BA, which is x. So x equals 11 times 2, which x equals 22. All right. Example B is going in the opposite direction, where we're given the bigger side, 26, and we're trying to find the smaller side here. So then we will do 26, and you can write divided by 2 or times 1/2. It means the same thing. That equals 13. In example C, we're not given anything about the midsegment and this corresponding side. But remember, these 2 points bisect the sides that they're on, meaning these 2 sides are congruent and these 2 sides are congruent. Oh, so this means x and 7 belong here. So x equals 7. They are the same length. All right, let's flip the page. Okay, on this page, we have triangle WXY, where R, S, and T are the midpoints of the sides. Complete the following statements. So RS is going to be parallel to what side? Well, let's look. RS goes this way, and that's going to be parallel to this side down here, WY. So segment WY. Now, segment WT is going to be congruent to 2 other segments. So let's take a look. WT is right here, and it's going to be congruent to TY because T is the midpoint of this segment here, but also RS is going to be half the distance of WY. that means all three of these segments are congruent. We can do the same thing for each side. R is the midpoint. R is the midpoint of xw. So this is congruent to RW. But that also means ST is congruent to those as well. And then finally, we have XS and SY is congruent to RT. So now we go back over here. Okay, WT is congruent to RS and TY. RS and TY. Side XW is going to be parallel to side ST. And then RT is going to be congruent to sides XS and SY. They have the same number of tick marks. So SY, and XS. Okay. So marking this up first really helped us answer these questions. All right. So let's move on to the next example. All right, down here, same kind of instructions, but now we're going to have equations, which means algebra. We have triangle GHJ, where A, B, and C are the midpoints of the sides. So let's go over and mark this up. Okay, so those three sides are going to be congruent. These three sides are going to be congruent. And then finally, these three sides are going to be congruent. It says AB is equal to 2x plus 14. So this side AB is 2x plus 14, and GJ is x plus 32. This whole side is x plus 32. Well, we got to figure out how are these two related. Well, AB is half of this length of GJ. So if I multiply the length of AB times 2, that will equal the length of GJ. So 2 times 2x plus 14, which was the length of AB, is equal to the length of GJ, x plus 34. So then we need to solve that. Distribute. We get 4x plus 28 equals x plus 34. I'm going to subtract 28 from both sides, and I'm going to subtract x from both sides. This will give me 3x equals 34 minus 28 is 6. Divide both sides by 3, x is equal to 2. That's not what the question is asking, though. The question is asking what is AB. So we need to take this 2 and plug it in for AB. AB is equal to 2 times 2 plus 14, which is equal to 18. Alright, letter B. It says AC is 6z minus 7 and HJ is 9z minus 5. What is the length of HJ? So let's see how those are related. AC and HJ. This is HJ and this is AC, where AC is half the length of HJ, meaning if we multiply AC by 2, it will give us the same length as HJ. So let's do that. 2 times 6z minus 7 equals 9z minus 5. We're going to distribute the 2. 12z minus 14 equals 9z minus 5. we're going to add 14 to both sides and subtract 9z from both sides. We get 3z equals negative 5 plus 14 is 9. Divide both sides by 3. Z equals 3. Now we got to plug that in for hj. 9 times 3 minus 5. We can type that into the calculator and get 22. Alright, and the last example for this picture, hg, is 5x plus 4, and bc is 4x minus 1. What is ag? So we're being asked to find one of the lengths that we're not working with at the beginning. So let's look at our picture, hg and bc. hg is right here, and bc is right here. So BC is half the length of HG. So 2 times 4x minus 1 equals 5x plus 4. So we're going to solve that. 8x minus 2 equals 5x plus 4. Add 2 and subtract 5x. This gives us 3x equals 6. Divide both sides by 3. X will equal 2. Now we need to plug that in, but let's see what we should plug it in for because we want to get AG. AG is the same length as BC. So let's plug that in for BC because we know they're the same length. So AG is equal to 4 times 2 minus 1, which will equal 7.